Aretha Franklin is back on stage 6 months after fans feared her life would be cut short by an illness. The Queen of Soul performed last night at Chicago Theater, her first show since she had to be hospitalized last year and canceled several concerts. Aretha Franklin is still not disclosing what was bugging her. The 69-year-old took part in a taping of Oprah Winfrey's final talk show while she was in Chicago, too, and she sang Amazing Grace. So it's very nice to have Michigan's Aretha Franklin back in action. Way down among Brazilians, coffee beans grow by the billions. They've got a lot of cups to fill. They have an awful lot of coffee in Brazil, and we're attached to a coffee house. I have to say the lyrics anymore because we're not allowed to play the songs anymore. Like if it's Frank Sinatra, we can't play it. But your toe is tapping when I read you the lyrics. But there's a coffee house next door to us here at the American Metal Roof Studio, and Amanda was making a little run. And we hope you come sometime because you can sit right in the coffee house and look through the window and watch the show. You can be part of the show too. And so our new production assistant, Thomas, said he wanted, what did you want?
Just a regular coffee with skim milk.
And I said, isn't that called a latte? And you said?
I said, I hope not, because I've been ordering that for years, and that's just kind of one of those words you never want anyone to hear you say out loud.
You don't want to say latte?
At least.
Because it's not, it seems kind of not macho?
Yeah, just one of those things I kind of look over my shoulder, see who's any girls behind me, you know.
Yeah. Like, and then I always feel weird too if it's at Starbucks. And can I just have like a small coffee? You have to use those strange sizes like venti or
and I always think it's funny how they correct you if you ask a medium. They say, "Oh, you mean tall?"
Oh yeah, you mean tall? Like, no, I mean medium.
Yeah.
Well, you have to speak our language or we can't give you the coffee. That's what it seems like. So the question was: is coffee with skim milk a latte?
Well,
technically. So you went over and you asked him.
It could be,
what do you mean?
Technically what Thomas wanted was coffee with cold skim milk. And a latte is coffee espresso with warm milk.
Phew.
What's the difference?
So you warm the milk up first and add the two versus adding cold milk to a coffee.
Doesn't the milk turn warm when you put it in hot coffee anyway?
Maybe it cools the coffee down a little bit. Might
So
be a temperature thing. But
if he gets coffee with skim milk, it's a coffee with skim milk.
It's a coffee with skim milk.
If he gets coffee with a hot skim milk,
it's a skim latte because technically a latte is made with whole milk.
You mean a skinny latte?
Maybe that.
Isn't that what they call it?
Now
what about caffeine? Do you want the so-called half calf or the leaded variety?
No, these coffee people are just too specific, I think. Just looking for coffee, a little caffeine.
Sometimes you hear people go in there and their order lasts like 7 minutes long. I want a blah, 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 half calf, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so the answer is he's kind of having a latte.
Could be if it was warm skim milk.
Okay.
But right now, I would say no. You're not having
a
latte.
Coffee.
It's not warm skim milk.
Skim milk.
Good.
48 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. The Speaker of the House saluted just a few minutes ago. Jace Bolger, the Republican, is with us from Marshall. And the budget deal reached between Governor Snyder and the leaders in the State House and the Senate. That includes you, Speaker Bolger. Congratulations.
Good morning. Thank you, Michael Patrick.
We'll look back on this day. What will we say about it?
It is a new era in Michigan. It's an era of fiscal responsibility. It's an era of accountability. So I think we'll look back and say today's winners are the taxpayers of Michigan, and there are kids and our grandkids as we look forward to the future of our state.
Is the movie business the big loser in yesterday's deal?
We did the governor's recommendation. We agreed to the governor's recommendation. There will be an additional bill that comes to follow, and that is really to make better use of that, as the governor described yesterday, to make that money go farther. The film credit today is overly generous, and so it's a compromise to try to reduce the amount of money and yet make that money go farther by using it smarter.
Mm-hmm. But is Hollywood going to buy that line?
We will see. Certainly, anybody who gets a deal as sweet as they've had likes that deal, but that doesn't mean a less sweet deal will mean that they don't win. So we will see as we design that the change in the program, because what we agreed on is not a tax credit; it's an appropriation for our economic development.
Other states, though, as I understand it, will continue with those extra generous sort of offers to the movie business, won't they? Will we be outbid?
Most states have really ratcheted them down.
Have they really?
They start with something very generous, and then they realize they're giving away the store, and people are coming, but they're not really reaping, the citizens of the state aren't reaping the rewards of that. So most states have gone either away from or really ratcheted them down.
Who else yesterday would you say got the short end of the stick, if anyone?
I don't believe anybody did.
Yeah?
I think actually the Democrats in the House and the Senate are doing a lot of complaining, but when we met, when I looked at the list that they requested, we went back, and I think we took care of almost every item, even on their list. Now, they will argue, well, we didn't do enough, but that's awfully convenient for them just to continue to say, well, we're not doing enough. So we worked very hard to try to listen to our citizens, even listen across the aisle, and try to work to make this budget better. It's been a great working process with Senate Majority Leader Richard Bill and Governor Snyder because they're really problem solvers. As we get into the room, it's okay, what are the issues outstanding and how do we solve those problems? So I feel like really it was pretty balanced, and I think, again, the biggest winners, though, are taxpayers and the future of our state, because not only did we structurally balance, but we were starting to do something that has not been done in 8 to 10 years in Lansing, and that is pay down our debt and start to put money away in our savings account.
In the end, was it the surplus that was discovered that sort of made it easier to get this done?
The surplus certainly had offered some relief in some areas, but also I was very encouraged in working with Senate Majority Leader Richard Bill and Governor Snyder about agreeing not to use that money to prop up ongoing expenses, to take that one-time money, because really that surplus was largely one-time money. It's not ongoing money.
Yeah.
It was money that's unspent, as well as new money coming in for the 1 year before the tax reform hits. So really that certainly provided some relief in some areas, but again, there was agreement not to use that to prop up ongoing spending, but instead look at things that we can do to reform, pay down debt, and even the money that's going to schools. It's very sizable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Jay Spolger.